Merle pulls out of his pocket this big Crown Royal bag full of weed. And then out of this pocket, he pulls out this big pipe. At that time, Dierks was leasing his bus, and you're not allowed to have any of that stuff. They'll fine you. Merle lights this big pipe up, smoke's going everywhere, and Dierks has kind of got that sweat kind of coming down his brow like, oh, hey, can you not do that? But one of the guys I just sang to all the time as an 11-year-old was Merle Haggard.
Did you ever get to work with him any?
Yeah, I did a few shows with him while he was still alive. Back in 2004 or 5, Buck Owens did this big event out at the Crystal Palace in Bakersfield, and that was the first time I met Merle. It was one of the most surreal moments of my life. You know, I just idolized him from like I said, from early years. And so Buck Owens did this event where he built these 10 bronze statues of 10 of the biggest country music icons in history. And it was Garth Brooks, it was George Jones, Merle Haggard, George Strait, Willie Nelson, Buck Owens.
Wow.
Ray Price maybe and a couple more, but he had everybody that he could have that was still alive out at the show. I think Willie was the only one that couldn't make it that was still alive, but it was a great night. Merle came over from Shasta, and Ray Benson, Sleep at the Wheel, he was there, and Buck Owens, of course, George Jones. It was the night that Garth proposed to Trisha Yearwood.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was a great night, and it was me and Dierks were kind of the young guys that were going to do all the songs while these guys kind of watched the show. So Jones and Haggard and Buck, they're all watching us play their songs.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, I don't think I've ever been in a moment in my life that was that intimidating.
I couldn't imagine.
It was terrifying. But, Merle was great. Like, when I first met him, I'm sure I just kind of stuttered like an idiot, like, oh, my God, this is my hero. I can't believe I'm talking to you. And he's like, come with me. He grabs me by the arm. He puts me in his car. He's got a Hummer, and he sets me in the front seat. You know, his wife's sitting in the back, and he starts putting CDs in and starts playing music. Stuff that he was currently working on and stuff that he wrote and he dug up out of somewhere, from 10 years ago. And he starts telling me stories behind these songs. He starts talking about the stuff that I've done. Mind you, I haven't said maybe 4 words to him.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in his car just like starstruck, and I'm floored that he's taken the time to talk to me and kind of go in depth about himself, and he invested time into getting to know who I was. So he was telling me about my music, which was just another level of, I don't know, it was incredible. That went on for about an hour, and his tour manager, Frank Mull, coming and knocked on the window, and he said, hey, the only guy there that had a bus there at this event was Dierks Bentley. And, I flew out, and I was, at the hotel, and several other guys drove down and everything. And so, but Dierks was actually out there touring out in California. And so Frank Mull, Merle's tour manager, said, Dierks has invited everybody to come hang on his bus, so we're not out here just kind of meandering around. But this is before the show. We had the show all after this. And so we're like, yeah, let's go hang out with Merle. I knew Dierks a little bit, or hang out with Dierks. I knew Dierks a little bit. And so Merle, me, Ray Benson, we all climb up on Dierks' bus, and Merle just went straight for the captain's chair. He went straight over to the table like he owned the place, And me and Dierks were kind of the new kids, and we just sat in the front lounge like a couple of toddlers. Merle sat down, and Ray sat down. Ray's about 6'8" or something, and they started talking, about this and that. They started talking about Bob Wills, and Merle pulls out of his pocket this big Crown Royal bag full of weed. Like a big bag like that. I was like, wow, I didn't think you could do that. And then out of this pocket, he pulls out this big pipe, and he just started packing this pipe right there as he's telling these stories. And at that time, Dierks was leasing his bus, and you're not allowed to have any of that stuff on a bus when you lease. And so they'll fine you for all the cleaning and everything like that. And so Merle lights this big pipe up, and this smoke's going everywhere, and Dierks has kind of got that sweat kind of coming down his brow like, oh, how do I tell him, hey, can you not do that? I'm like, yeah, just let it go. There's nothing we can do about this. So it was awesome. We sat there and listened to some amazing stories and got extremely stoned just from sitting in the room, man. We were like, oh no, we got to go play, we got to go play a show, and they're just going to have fun. And we're over here like, am I talking? Am I okay? Now we're gonna go on stage. But that was a fun deal, man. What a night that was. Yeah.
I saw someone had shared something a while back talking about Willie, saying that he liked to get young acts stoned out of their mind before they had to go on stage just to mess with them.
Man, I never smoked weed with Willie, but I tell you what, Gary Allan. I'm sorry to throw you under the bus here, Gary. You're probably going to see this. Probably wouldn't mind me telling this, though. The only guy that really has ever made me question my existence in the world is Gary Allan and his whatever he does to his weed. Because another funny story, mind you, this is 20 years ago, maybe 2005 or something. And we were playing on a festival together. It was maybe 20 artists on this day, 15 or 20 artists on this big festival. And where all the buses park, you had 30 buses maybe out there. And everybody's kind of got a black bus. They're all somewhat similar. You know, there's a few that are white and whatnot. But everybody's pretty much got a black bus. I got a black bus, and Gary does too. And Gary comes over and he goes, "Hey, man, come over to the bus. I got this new contraption for smoking weed." And I'm like, I'm not much of a weed smoker. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. We're sitting down, kicking around. This is after the show. And I go back to his bus, and he's got this thing called a volcano. It's this big cellophane, plastic-looking volcano. And I don't know what he did, but he get up all this smoke in there, and it's, you know, to protect your throat from all the smoking. And so I get in there and just apparently do a lot, inhale a lot. And he's like, "Oh, no, you know, yeah, I wouldn't have done that." And so... Hey, I'm thinking I'm pretty tough. I'm like, I can handle this, you know. I'm a pro. I was not a pro. About 10 minutes later, I'm like, I've got to go. I got to go. This is wrong. And, you know, they kind of laughed. You know, I was, like I said, was not much into smoking weed or anything like that. And this is why, because it really, I guess, really affects me greatly. And I walked off the bus, and I guess I got to get to my bus so where I can get in bed, before I can just start breathing again. You know, everything's nuts. And I walk off the bus, and the first thing I saw was 30 black buses. I was like, oh no, I have no idea which one's mine. And so I just walk up and start knocking on buses like, is this my bus? I've had to knock on 10 doors, and they're like, "What, are you okay? What are you doing? You know, what are you doing?" Like, "I'm sorry, I'm just looking for my bus. I'm super high. I don't know what to do about this." But, that was a fun. I'll never do that again. I never did that again after that with Gary.
Were you playing?
I'd already played.
Oh,
so
good.
He and I both were already done with our shows, and so it was kind of a wind down. Whoever the headliner was on that night was on, and you know, we were kind of just, you know, letting the evening go. But yeah, I will never do that. I would advise anybody, don't smoke weed with Gary Allan, because I think Willie might even hesitate for that. Maybe, yeah.
I only met Gary one time, and I was a teenager. It was after a show, and I met him back at his bus, and he invited me on the bus. I stepped on with him, and he was fixing a crowning coat.
Yeah,
I was like 16 years old, but cool guy. I mean, just one of the most down-to-earth people I think I've ever met.
Yeah, Gary's always a great guy. Loves him some old school country music, and one of the things I always loved about Gary, we were managed by the same guy for a little while, and I love when artists do it their way, no questions asked. You know, he kind of had a vision.
Yeah.
He knew the sound he wanted. He liked things run a certain way. And, you know, that guy's had a heck of a career, a very unconventional career.
Yeah.
And so, but that's all comes from vision. You know, you can kind of withstand, you know, dips and valleys if you got vision.
Yeah.
Well, how
did you get into the music business?
Ooh,